Living by the train tracks. Living by the train tracks. Bilbo's living by the train tracks. He's living by the train tracks. Bilbo's living by the train tracks. He hangs out by the train tracks. He's living by the train tracks. Living by the train tracks. The freight train goes by. Norfolk Southern Rail and Gurney lives by the railroad tracks in Gurney. He lives by the railroad tracks in Gurney. And Gurney lives by the railroad tracks. In Gurney, he's living by the railroad tracks. Bilbo, with his wife, Mrs. Bilbo, living by the railroad tracks. He lives by the railroad tracks. Bilbo's living by the railroad tracks. He hanging out by the railroad tracks. Watching the trains go by, drinking beer, walking along the railroad tracks. Living by the railroad tracks. Bilbo is living by the railroad tracks. Railroad tracks. Living by the railroad tracks. Bilbo is living by the railroad tracks. He's watching the train go by, going through Viking Park in Gurney, living by the railroad tracks. Bilbo's living by the railroad tracks. Bilbo is living by the railroad tracks in Gurney, Illinois. He's watching the trains go by. He hangs out with Chris, drinks beer, living by the railroad tracks. Living by the railroad tracks in Gurney, Illinois. Bilbo is taking the train, taking the freight train and hitching a ride on it like a hobo. Watching the train go by, Bucktooth driving the engine. Living by the train tracks. 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 Bilbo's living by the train tracks. Bilbo's living by the train tracks. Bilbo's living by the train tracks. Train tracks.